Hi, welcome to the live coffee break with Pam. And this is the first time I actually do live to multiple different channels. And I live to a Facebook and a LinkedIn and Facebook page and also YouTube channel. And I actually have somebody like Scott, who is my video editor, helping me out. And the coffee break with Pam is for me to answer three questions that my community members usually ask me, or some of the questions that you commonly facing. So here are the three questions that I want to talk about. Number one, what are the post-COVID marketing trends I should pay attention to in order to grow my business? Okay, so that's number one question. Number two, what are the benefits of artificial intelligence for sales and marketing? And how can a small business implement it? That's a loaded question as well. Number three, I still work on my 2022 budget, which is great. What can I do to increase and get more budget? I have some ideas to share that with you. So let's get started. Number one, what are some of the post COVID marketing trends I should pay attention to in order to grow my business? To be honest with you, I think that we should look at that question a little bit differently. Okay. It's not necessarily focusing on marketing trends. I think that's important. But most important things that you need to focus on is your customers' behavior. What are some of the behaviors have changed in the past 1.5 years? Are some of the behaviors will stay the same, right? Or are they going to reverse back to what happened, before 2020? Rather than tracking and looking into the marketing trends and follow the trends, I would switch that question and I would like the marketers to ask themselves specifically, how much you understand your customers in terms of what they have changed in the past 1.5 years. Can you predict some of the behaviors that they actually possess or leverage that it's going to reverse back or stay the same? If they stay the same, that is going to modify and alternate your strategy in terms of what you need to do to support them. If they are going to reverse back in terms of how they're going to behave before 2020, then you need to think through in terms of what the marketing tactics that you did was effective, and then you will try to implement that. Does that make sense? So look at in terms of your customers' behavior and look at in terms of your customers' um, insight to dictate in terms of what you need to do. For example, when I look at the B2B marketers, they are actually my peeps and also my customers. And I also know that a lot of them, they're still working remotely, and chances are they're going to be working remotely, likely throughout probably 2022. So the way I'm going to reach out to them is still going to be online. It's not going to be like in-person conference. Does that make sense? So that will actually modify my behaviors in terms of I need to amp my online communications and also my talk with my target audience. So look at in terms of your customers' behavior to determine what you will do for your 2022 plan. Is that helpful? Okay. Number two, what are the benefits of artificial intelligence for marketing and the sales? And how can a small business implement it? From my perspective, there are three major benefits of artificial intelligence that can help sales and marketing. Number one is predictive analytics. So if you actually have enough data, customer data, can you actually create some sort of regression or some sort of business model to determine and predict your customers' propensity to buy or their intent to buy or their predict what they're going to move next, what kind of content they're going to consume? So using massive amount of data to do prediction, that's one way artificial intelligence can actually help you. The second one is segmentation and personalization. A lot of time you have a huge amount of data and you can look a lot of look-alike customers and demographic, and then you can determine what are some of the marketing communication that you can personalize and segment for different demographic and the different sets of customers. So using artificial intelligence can actually help you to personalize your outreach, right? Another thing, the third things that artificial intelligence can help is repetitive tasks. Can you look at your workflow and then determine what are some of the steps are incredibly repetitive? Can that be taken care of by artificial intelligence? Can artificial intelligence or natural language processing tool write the first draft of your blog post, for example, right? You give them a brief, right? And they will write and then you will edit. So artificial intelligence is, don't be intimidated by artificial intelligence. Look at what kind of benefits artificial intelligence can provide, right? And then you can determine how AI can actually help you. And of course, understand what they can help you and also understand the limitation of the current AI capabilities. A lot of time when you have the natural language processing tool to write your first blog post draft, you still need to edit it. You cannot take that as the final draft. Does that make sense? So that's a limitation of artificial intelligence that you need to take into account. If you actually use huge amount of data and you run a data analysis, you also need to have a common sense. Like the data also have certain level of a bias, right? Just like us, we human, we all have a certain level of bias based on our upbringing, based on how we interact with the different people on a regular basis. So when you are doing analysis, you need to have a common sense and understand if the data prediction or the model is telling you, does that recommendation make sense? Okay, apply your judgment. That's a limitation of artificial intelligence that you need to be aware of. Not just use blindly, but understand their limitation. How can small business implement that? That's a great question. A lot of time, artificial intelligence create like model building or even using certain kind of tool can be very expensive. For a small business, you don't have a huge amount of budget. What I will do is source any kind of third-party SaaS-based platform that you are using and see if they actually have artificial intelligence features that built into it that you can leverage and maximize. Does that make sense? Like Salesforce, Einstein is actually an algorithm and the machine learning build type of platform can actually learn and from the data that you actually feed into it because it's part of the SaaS Salesforce platform. You pay certain kind of fee and you can leverage that. So the best way for small business to leverage artificial intelligence at this point, my recommendation is using a third-party SaaS-based platform that you're already using. Understand what are the features that are being added by using an algorithm and leverage that and see if you can take advantage of it. Does that make sense? So that's my recommendation for the second question. For the third questions, hey, I'm still working on my 2022 budget. Great, excellent. How can I get more budget? There are 3 ways to do that. Number 1, can you align with sales team? If your sales are making the requests in terms of like, I need marketing to do this for me, chances are you can probably get more budget because it's requested by the sales team. So if you want to get more budget, the number 1 thing I usually tell my clients is to make sure that you align with the sales team. Understand the sales asks and to take that into account when you present it to your senior management. So that's number 1. Second thing is understand the cost per acquisition. Okay. For example, you have to get number of leads and your goal to get number of leads is 1,000 leads per month or per quarter. You have to understand what's the cost per acquisition per lead. Okay. If it's $300, so 300 times 1,000, that's what? $30,000, right? So all of a sudden, if your management are asking you to get 2,000 leads, if you actually know your cost per acquisition, you can use that information to get additional budget. Because the more leads you're going to get, the higher the budget it is in general. Right. And I know a lot of time that senior management will ask you to get more leads, but give you exactly the same budget. Yes, there's certain efficiency you can drive the cost per acquisition down, but not so much. You need to have data to support that. Cost per acquisition usually align in proportion to the number of the leads that you are going to get. So if you actually have a solid understanding or have a good understanding of your cost per acquisition, you can use that to your leverage to get additional budget. Number 3 is initiatives, right? a lot of time that the company actually have a certain kind of initiative that they are driving, especially any kind of data integration or any kind of process improvements or any kind of workflow, addition. So identify what that is, especially what is the corporate wide type of initiatives that you are driving. Understand what that is, and also understand what marketing needs to do to actually make that happen. Make your effort as a part of a corporate wide effort. That's also another way to get additional budget. So these are the three things I share with you. Number one is make sure you align with the sales team. Number two is understand, have a good idea in terms of what your cost per acquisition is. Number three, incorporate some of the joint initiatives as a part of your plan and ask. All right, so that's it for today. If you like it, I actually do this live channels on Tuesdays, and the time tend to be around 2 to 4. So pay attention. I will publish that. I hope to hear from you. Feel free to comment on any social media channel. I will answer that question personally. Take care. Bye.